Hey
Oh,
everybody.
hi everyone. Okay, so we should be live. Let's see. We're gonna do a little quick tech check on our end to make sure everything's going okay. Just gonna chat our assistant, the wonderful Susanna, and see. Um, Make sure everything's good. Let's open up. I'm gonna open up our page and check in on make sure all of our chat is going good. Never hurts to do a couple extra little tech checks now, does it?
We love technology checks. They're very important. And technology is a wonderful thing. I heard recently, and I don't remember who told me this, if this was you, Dana, or not, but that technology is like the second most fearful thing to humans right now after like fear of heights or something like that.
Stop it. I mean, I'm going to say that that the whole, like potential like AI, like taking over the world is a little scarier than like a fear of heights, but I don't know.
Well, that's not even what people are afraid of. They're just afraid of their Zoom not working or their YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, I could see that. Sandy, can you let's see. Let's see. So it says Sandy, Susanna says she can see Sandy, but she can hear me but not see me.
Huh.
Okay. So good that we're checking here.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can see me then.
I think they could see, I think, see and hear you, just not see me.
Great.
Um,
I hope we can get you. It might just be your internet connection then.
okay, so she sees me now. So we just got to make sure that we're popping back and forth. Sandy, when you're talking, can you be seen?
I hope so. I'm pretty sure you can see me, right? Can
Thanks
you?
everyone for just holding in here these first like minute or two as we just make sure everything works, because y'all know how it is. Everyone, what I'll just say, Susanna says both of our hair looks great. So I think,
oh, that's really nice.
She says Sandy's not popping in, so it's not popping back and forth dynamically.
Got it.
So let me see if it's something here on my end. I'm not sure what that's about.
Me either. You can check the control room, but I don't know if it does anything.
No, it doesn't say anything in particular.
I can try leaving and then coming back. Can I do that?
I suppose you can try that real quick.
I'll be back in a minute and then we'll get started.
Okay, and everyone in the meantime, hi everyone. We actually spent, oh wait, I'm tangled here, hold on. We actually spent a good amount of time doing some tech checks, and everything was going smoothly. But then of course, what always happens is that, when we, actually I'm gonna take these out altogether. When we get, set up, then of course there's always a little something. So thanks for bearing with us. And what we're gonna start in just 1 minute here. What I would love for you all to do is just like get comfy, put your feet flat on the ground if that feels good to you. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. Just really, just really like let's get a little centered here, right? So you're comfy, you've got your journal or whatever your, notebook looks like. your pen. You know, you got a glass of water, everything's, you know, you've got your like face mist, right? We've got everything we need. Good. Okay, so Sandy's re-entered here. Susanna, can you just give us one more little tech check to see if
I have to talk and see if it comes back on over to me. Hi, everybody. Is it working? I feel like there should be a little music in the background.
Okay, I think Susanna said yes. Everything.
Okay, great.
We're popping back and forth. Perfect. So here we are. All right. So let's get going here. Now we got it. Now we're tech checked. Triple, quadruple checked. And we're live, and we're happy to be here. And thank you all for showing up, whether you're watching this now or whether you're watching this later. We're so happy to share this, you know, everything that we're about to share with you, you know, with you, and just know that, like, you know, we're going to post the replay very soon. I mean, really, this is, once we're done, the replay is going to be up. You know, this is it. So you'll be able to come back over the next few days up through the 8th to, you know, you can rewatch, you can go ahead and, you know, zoom back into some, you know, parts of the work that we do today, and sort of dig in even deeper. So it'll be up for you.
Yes. And if you haven't yet figured it out, I'm Sandy. I'm an astrologer and hypnotist, and this is my lovely business partner, Dana.
Hi, everyone. I'm a transformational coach. I'm out in gorgeous Joshua Tree, California.
Yay. So Dana and I love to work together because we bring astrology and coaching together. So if you're not yet familiar with our work, if you're new here, we welcome you and invite you to spend time with us. And in our teachings, I love to use astrology to bring in this insight, to spark insight about who you are and your life purpose and your path and your key lessons. And then Dana's skills and amazing magic as a coach, she'll help you process all that insight to even peel back the deeper layers and really change your mindset in a beautiful, amazing way. And that's what we're going to do here today with the topic of Saturn, because Saturn is our big teacher. Saturn comes into our life at different times to help us grow. And so in just a moment, we'll dive in, you know, as Dana mentioned, get your journal out, get settled. And I'll start out by teaching myself. I'm always learning about Saturn and the whole Saturn cycle. And then we're going to take that learning and we're going to start to work with it, really dive into some work that's personal to you. So this is not just, you know, this isn't just like a sit back and listen and watch kind of thing. This is really doing some journaling and doing some thinking and some processing, which is why people who join in on this class get great insights. And we get so many emails from folks just like who are just thank you so much for this class. Like, we really, really, really appreciate it. And we'll also be able to share a way that you can go deeper with us in the work if you want to. So I'll give you a chance to talk to Dana, so I'm not hogging.
No, you're never hogging, but you know, we're gonna share some more insights. We're gonna share lots of insights and lots of action, and then we're gonna share some opportunities more towards the end about how to do this work a little more deeply, and how to get, like, you know, to get even deeper. So what we're going to share with you is just like, you know, is going to be a deep dive today. But we're going to give you some opportunities to do even more work with us. And so if you hear us referring to, you know, to like, oh, well, we're going to go deeper into the work, it's because we're actually referring to our course, the Saturn Return Workshop, which opens today. And, you know, we'll give you the opportunity to join in with a special price over the next couple of days. But we're going to let you know the places how we serve, right, throughout our time together today. So just listen in. If you're like, ooh, I want to go deeper there, you know, that there'll be an opportunity for that.
Awesome. Sorry, I just turned on the video to just double check it. So I wasn't doing something else for a second there. So yeah, so should I jump in and start with Saturn? Does that sound
Yes. And thanks everyone in the chat. The chat's working great. People are popping in and asking, already asking some questions that we are totally gonna answer. And like, yes, this live chat is absolutely happening right now. So thank you all so much for being in here. And happy birthday, Kimia. Turning 28. And Fiorella is turning 28 in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, we got lots of Saturn returners here. Great. Let's dive in. Sandy, take it away.
Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, now I can see the chat too. Okay, great. I like that. I like seeing your names in the chat. Cool. So I love teaching about Saturn. Saturn is my #1 favorite planet. Every planet in astrology represents an archetype. An archetype is like a way that we can think of ourselves. So each planet represents a different part of ourselves. And the energy that Saturn holds is the part of us that is kind of like our inner guidance, our inner teacher who really wants us to stay in alignment, who wants us to keep it simple, keep ourselves on our path, be standing up straight and tall, be in integrity, be responsible, be working hard, be like here doing whatever it is our soul wanted us to do before we were born. So it's this really powerful figure in astrology. And so we all have this energy within us. And I'm going to start out by talking about what that energy is and how it comes out. But then there's different times in our lives when that energy becomes heightened, when Saturn transiting through the sky comes in and says, hey, it's go time. What do you need to take away? What is the universe going to take away so that you get more on your path and more aligned? So this is always for growth. This is always for excellency and to really become more of who you're meant to be. But these different moments in time can be kind of challenging. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to explain when that happens. But first, I'm going to go a little bit further into like what this energy is in all of us and how it gets expressed. So I want you to try to think, is there like a teacher that you had at some point in your education, maybe college, maybe high school, maybe middle school, elementary, a teacher who was really strict, but you like felt like you really wanted to figure out how you could impress that teacher. You wanted to do a good job for the teacher, maybe not, but this teacher was strict and they were no nonsense. So think about who that person was. Most of us have had at least one. I had one, but I was like really wanted it. Like I wanted that class. It was an elective and I was like, oh, this teacher is really strict and really mean and it's really hard. So I'm going to take that class. But other people might have like been really like not excited about that teacher. I know, Dana, you had a teacher like that in, I think, 3rd grade, and you were like crying in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Golan. In fact, when I posted something about when we did a live the other day, and one of my old, one of the kids Blake, that I went to school with, like watched the hangout and was like, oh my, he was in my 3rd grade class and he was in my 2nd grade class. He's like, I haven't thought about them forever. Oh my God, she was so intense. Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. I love that. Yeah. So think about that teacher. So this teacher is part of the Saturn archetype. So you can really, if you have that person in mind, you can really get like a kind of tangible feeling of what this is. Now, probably somehow, maybe not always, but ideally this teacher was trying to help you grow. And for whatever reason, they thought that this was the best way to do it, to get you to grow up to be a great adult. You know, hopefully that was the case. And that's what Saturn wants for you too. So that's one really great way you can think of Saturn. Another way to think about Saturn, and this is a little bit more abstract, but Saturn can also be the part of you that's like the inner critic. And I kind of think of this as like Saturn gone wrong a little bit, but we all have it. So no judging yourself about your inner critic. No like, man, I'm really critical of my own inner critic. My inner critic is out of control. So now I'm upset with myself about that. We don't need to go there. We all kind of have this inner critic. It's a part, it happens. We could talk more about why this inner critic comes up, but this inner critic, you know, at some point in your development when you were a kid, your parents were trying to help you do a really good job, or maybe it was your teachers, or maybe it was your neighbor, or someone in your religious organization. And so they would say, you know, they would be a little bit critical of you. Maybe they'd be like, hey, your fingernails are so messy, you need to go clean those, or whatever it is. And that's just a normal, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, I'm not trying to lay judgment on it, but it's just a normal part of growing up. You know, you're a kid and you have older people telling you what to do. And that voice then becomes internalized, and then it becomes kind of like your inner critic. And so you then go around, and we can be quite hard on ourselves. And usually when I'm looking at someone's astrology chart, you know, this is something I talk to them about if they have, you know, a very strong Saturn in their chart, or, you know, something going on with Saturn, because Saturn represents this inner critic. And so it's another way that you can think about the Saturn energy. And the third way I like to think about the Saturn energy kind of comes into play especially at these key Saturn transits, these key ages when you're going through these Saturn experiences, which I will talk about in just a minute. That's where I'm headed next. So if you're curious about that, don't worry, I've got you covered. But this way of thinking about Saturn is thinking about Saturn as the house inspector. So people who are selling houses, they need to have an inspector come and go in and check and make sure everything is structurally sound and do like a big investigation. And so this house inspector is kind of like Saturn coming in at your key Saturn transits to say, hey, is everything in alignment in your life? Is everything working the way you as an adult need it to work so that you can do all the things you want to do in your life? And this will look like, well, in my house inspector example, this is like the house inspector going down in the basement. No one's been down in the basement for years. You know, there's all this mold there. There's all these cracks. And then the people who own the house find out, and they're like, oh man, we have to do all this work before we can sell the house. So this kind of energy, this Saturn as the inspector who's coming in to check and see what's happening, see what's really there. This is what is kind of happening at these key Saturn transits. And, you know, just as an aside, because we're going to come back to this house inspector analogy, like the inspector could go down into the basement and not find any cracks or mold, right? So this is just a neutral thing that's happening. It's like the inspector's coming, the inspector's looking around. At a key Saturn transit, you're going to have to look to see if things are in alignment. If things are in alignment, great. If there's no mold in the basement, great. But maybe things are a little out of whack, and it's going to come up. You're going to know. You're going to find out. Okay? And so that's really what these key times I'm just now going to explain to you are all about. It's about checking in. It's about seeing if you're really where you need to be in your life so that you can grow into who you need to be. And so, so we're going to look at some slides in a second here. If I can get the technology gods on my side. I just want to check the chat and see how everybody's doing.
Yeah, everyone's great. I'm wondering
good. Okay.
Chat over here. We just have a lot of folks who are like ripe and ready and like feeling it.
Yay, I love hearing that. Awesome. Okay, so let me get these slides going so you can see what I mean, because this is the part where you really need visuals. This is the part where we're going to start to understand like how it feels and how it works and what time in your life this all comes up. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to do this. All right. Okay, so I think you can see that, right? Beautiful. So this is the glyph for Saturn. And first we start here. So just imagine that this circle you're looking at here is the orbit of Saturn as it moves around the sun. So if you looked up in the sky right now at this very moment, Saturn is somewhere in the sky, okay? So at the moment that you were born, Saturn was somewhere in the sky. And let's just say it was right here on its orbit in this imaginary drawing. Let's say this is where Saturn started at the moment of birth. Okay, now Saturn is going to travel around this whole circle, go all the way around the sun, and at some point it's going to come back right back to where it was when you were born. And that's going to take about 28 years. Really, it's going to take a little bit longer than 28 years, but I'm going to use the number 28 for simplicity. So every time Saturn makes it at 90 degrees more around this circle, every time it goes forward 90 degrees, it's coming to a hard aspect where with the place that it was at when you were born. So I'll say that one more time because it might be a little confusing. Every time Saturn moves 90 degrees around the circle, it's making a hard aspect. That's the math part of astrology, is like these 90-degree angles are called hard aspects. They're challenging aspects. This is like a little bit of a side eye or a little bit of a face off, depending on what's happening. So because it takes 28 years to go all the way around the circle, divide 28 by 4 and you come up with the number 7. So the first time Saturn comes to a hard aspect with where it was when you were born is around age 7 or 8. And this is a square aspect. Okay. And so this is a time when Saturn is checking in. This house inspector is checking in and saying, hey, little 7-year-old, how are you growing? Are you coming up to become who you're meant to be? And as you might know or remember, age 7 is the age of reason. Okay. And this is an age where at age 7, around then, when you have your first Saturn square, your development has come to a point where you can understand logic, you can understand yourself in context to other people. You're starting to become much more mature than you were at age 6. Okay, so the next 90 degrees comes at around age 14 or 15. This is when Saturn is opposite to where it was in the sky when you were born. And so this age 14, 15, this is another time of big development. You enter into high school a lot of times. You're starting to get a lot more autonomy. You're really starting to choose for yourself in a lot of ways, choose your own electives. You're starting to define your path as an adult. Okay, I mean, a lot of people start working at this age. I did. And then you get to age 21, 22. That's the next big moment. And so at this age, you're responsible enough in society that you're allowed to do almost everything. Almost everything is legal for you that's legal to be done. And you've really started to take on this much more mature role. Now you've kind of officially entered emerging adulthood. And so then guess what happens about 7 or 8 years later? You have your Saturn return. Yay. So this is the big one. This is the first Saturn return. And what this is you're moving now from this kind of emerging adulthood stage. You're moving into adulthood. Okay. And I just learned this from a great astrologer named Eugenia Kroc. And she attached some science to this. And this is actually the point where your brain finishes its development. I didn't know that. So this is fascinating because you're really now, you've come to a new point, a new maturity. And at this first Saturn return, and we're really going to focus on this throughout the session in terms of healing and changing some old belief systems, some old belief patterns and limiting beliefs. At this age, you get to this point where you're like, hey, I am myself. I'm not who my parents wanted me to be. I'm not who my society wanted me to be. Like, I need to be me. And I've been making a lot of decisions since I was a child that are actually no longer me. Like, I know myself more and I know that I have more options and I can't keep going on the way I was going. So some things are going to have to change. So this is a big checkpoint. This is a big moment when that house inspector goes down into the basement to see, are things in alignment? Are you who you meant to be? What needs to change? And this can be a time where sometimes external things happen, things that it looks like you have no control over, and they're happening because they're helping you grow. So it's like that teacher coming in to help you grow, to help you remember study, to work hard, to show up on time, and all this stuff. And so you can't control these external things, and you're not supposed to, but you can control your own self-growth. You could do inner work, and you can heal the patterns that exist within you. And that's what Dana and I do together in our Saturn Return workshop. We help you go through a process to really heal the core limiting beliefs and all this stuff. So it's really important. And at any of these ages, you might find something similar happen. So we'll keep going through the ages. So now the next square is at around age 37. The next opposition is at around age 44. And then age 51, we get to the next square. And so these ages are all these checkpoints. Saturn is facing off with itself. You're trying to up level. Up level is a key word to use to describe this. And then we get to age 58, 59. The next Saturn return. So if you're around this age and you're here today in the class, you know, we've got people from all different ages in the class today, because this whole class is about drilling in to see who you really are and get into alignment with yourself. And Saturn is one of the archetypes that helps you do that. And so it's great to learn about Saturn at any age. And as you can see, you're never that far from one of these checkpoints. But at age 58, 59, your second Saturn return, you've had a lot of life experience. You've had a lot of time to get yourself into alignment with who you're really meant to be. And so now the question is, well, who do I want to be now as an elder? And how do I want to go and show an example or give back my knowledge that I've learned or pass the baton on? How am I going to kind of like be that critical piece of society to be a teacher and a mentor and a guide? How am I going to stand up straight and tall in my full kind of like, in my full integrity? Now that I'm really myself, how am I going to model? It's a very key and very important time of life. And you're starting also to work with your sense of, you've probably already started this before this second Saturn return, but Saturn also rules time. And so it rules your physical body and aging. And so you're working with the limits of time and the limits of the body, that we are all going to die. And so what is it that you want to do on Earth? What's your legacy? And so this is all key for the second Saturn return. And so you can see that this is going to continue around, and we have these key different types of transits. And the questions that I always get from folks are like, well, what's the difference between the square and the opposition and the Saturn return? They're different. They're kind of different in an umbrella sense. So there's going to be like a different kind of theme, but it's not, they're not like wildly different. Like at each of these times you're being challenged. I would say that the Saturn return is like a big, big checkpoint where you may find that you're really having to go inward and examine those inner patterns. And sometimes it's a little surprising how that happens, but you're really coming home to yourself in a way. You're returning home to yourself to see who you are. At the square, you kind of know who you are, but you have to up level. The waxing square ages, which are like 37, 65, these ages, you're very busy, you're working really hard. You might feel like you're trying to move a mountain to get yourself to the next level. And it can feel like it's effort. And you're kind of like, but for what? But you know, there's something that you know, but it's still really challenging. The opposition, you're usually kind of facing off with yourself in a way and trying to make a big decision about who you are. And then this waning square, there's something really critical about what you need to let go of and what you need to release. And so, there's a couple really important things to keep in mind at any of these times. And so I'm going to quit sharing my screen now so you can see me and see my face. I don't know how to do that. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see me now. So, there's a couple of key things to know. I'm really going to focus on one of them. I think we have a couple of things we like to call secrets, the secrets of your Saturn return. One secret is that this is really about inner work. There's going to be stuff happening outside of you and at any age that you're on the Saturn cycle, but you really have to go in and do the work inside. It's easier, it looks easier to go deal with everything else that's happening, and sometimes you need to, because it's, you know, you're going to have stuff to deal with. But really the best place to put at least an hour every day of time is on this inner work. Another secret is that the feeling around this time can feel very isolating. It can feel like you're really alone and that there's no one else who's experiencing this, because Saturn, when traditional astrology was being developed many years ago, Saturn was the furthest away planet that could be seen with the naked eye. So there's this feeling with Saturn of you're far away, you're isolated, you're way out there, no one else gets you, no one else is in your orbit. And so this can also lead to comparison and feeling like looking at other people outside of you and feeling like, oh, they all have friends, or they all have support, or they're all making money, or they're all doing the right job, or they all have the partner. And it's like that comparison is a mirage. And what you really need at this time is support, and you need community, and you need to kind of be able to feel like you know where you're going for help, and that you have some system of a network of some kind. And let's see. And then the third thing really quickly is that, like, you might feel like stuff is challenging at the Saturn key transits. I'm not saying it's always going to be super challenging for everyone at all. So this isn't to scare you in any way. Like, a lot of people find that these times are very, like, it's very enlivening and it's very sweet. And that whole idea here is this is just an opportunity for inner work. And that inner work is always just going to make you more yourself. And so why not do it? But the third secret I like to share is that there's can sometimes be this tendency to do compulsive stuff to kind of like try to soothe if there's any challenge or hardship, like, okay, I'm just gonna eat my feelings, or I'm gonna drink, or I'm going to ignore it. I'm gonna put my head in the sand. And of course, that's something that we all have probably had some experience with as humans. You know, there can easily be a tendency to reach for something instead of feeling the feelings. But especially at this time, it's crucial that you figure out how to sit with the feelings and really look at them and really be with them. Okay, so to recap what you learned in this Saturn section, and we're gonna go in and we're gonna actually connect the Saturn story, the astrology story, to your own inner universe and your own inner world. You learned how to think about Saturn, the Saturn teacher, the Saturn guide, the Saturn higher self, not higher self, that's not the way I usually describe it. Your inner authority is what I like to say. And you also learned about the timing of this, and why, if you're at one of these key times, there may be some challenges coming up, and that there's some purpose for this. And you saw here that it's really important not to avoid and kind of try to push away any of these lessons. That's really important to step toward it and be with it. So yeah, so let's take all of this insight and kind of dive into some coaching with it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me, Sandy. Yay. And, just so you all know, just a teeny bit about us before we dive in, Sandy and I have been friends for almost 20 years. And we're both Libras. We're actually just born 2 days apart. We've been doing this work now for a handful of years, right? And we've been developing and really birthing this work around around working with Saturn and the Saturn return and all the different transits, and all of it, everything that we're sharing comes from our own direct experience, right? We've been through it. Obviously, we're both 38, turning 39 this year. So we haven't been past that in this lifetime, right? But, but everything that we share is work that we've done, that we've integrated, that we embody, that we work with every day. So just know that, that we're sharing so much of our own deep experience with you, as well as the work that we're here to do in the world. And, they're the same thing, which is great. And a lot of that insight, came through our Saturn return. So, beloveds, there's so much good stuff in the chat. I've been in there, so Sandy, I'll hand it off to you because I'm going to go. And I didn't see too many. I saw a couple little questions. You can go back in there and scan to see if there are anything that came up. Just know that anyone who, if you wrote a question in the chat, when we open up for Q&A time, you might want to repost it. I mean, Sandy will go back and do our best, but just so you know, if it's a really critical question that we haven't answered yet, go ahead and repost it. Good. So let's dive in to some coaching, right? We're going to move some of these Saturn insights into action, right? This is what I love to do. It's like, let's take all these deep insights, the insights that you've gotten, yes, from this, this conversation with Sandy so far, with us so far, as well as just your insights from maybe any other inner work that you've done. Maybe you've never done any and you're just like, I'm just living life and I get insights all the time. That's great. Let's move some of this into action. And, I want to share, Sandy, can I mute you? Or can you
please. Here, let me mute myself.
Okay, great. Perfect. Not that I don't want to hear from you. So what I want to share today is a beloved aspect of the inner work that I do with my one-on-one students. That's very Saturnian because it's very, it's very much about structure in like your foundation, like the foundation of, of who you are and how you've gotten to this moment right now, no matter what age you're at, no matter what you've been through. And this is work that I did that I was introduced to in my Saturn return and changed everything for me, allowed me to connect with myself in a way that I never had before. And that it continues to like sort of revolutionize my relationship with myself on a damn near daily basis. So, when Saturn comes in, as Sandy was saying, there are big foundational shifts, right? And you're trying to find alignment. Like that's what Saturn wants from you, right? If we were to say that Saturn has a desire, Sandy and I are always like, Saturn says, because we work with him so closely that, it feels like, one of our friends here, or I guess just really one of our master teachers is really like the sort of reverence that we have for Saturn. But Saturn really wants alignment for you, right? And so it's, when we're in this like practice of alignment, because it's not just something you get once and then you're aligned, right? It's like this constant practice and like dance, really. That it's not about, as Sandy was saying, trying to control like what's outside of you, right? Because you don't have control over what's outside of you, over your external, right? It's about really understanding what's happening inside of you. And it's not about controlling what's inside of you. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's not about controlling your emotions, right? Like that can be, that has everything to do with our relationship to control, which is about our relationship to change, right? I mean, there's so much that we won't get into here, but we actually do get into in our Saturn return workshop, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later today. But it's really about like that alignment, like understanding, like developing a relationship with your, with your inner world, with your own inner landscape, being able to navigate it, being able to like take leaps into the mystery, not because it's on the other side, because then it wouldn't be mystery, right? But because you trust yourself, right? You learn to trust yourself. That's what we want for you. That's the invitation of Saturn. That's what we feel like is the rich opportunity that Saturn has for all of us at any age. So we're gonna Sandy, can you pull up the first slide, my darling? And we're going to go into mindset. Oh, let's see. Wait, hold on. I'm talking, but I need to get Sandy's. Hold on. We're going to just do a quick tech check thing here. So, okay, good. So I think, can everyone see? I just want to make sure everyone can see the slides and is not seeing my big old face here. Hold on one sec. Can everyone see my slide?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Cheryl says slide is up. Thank you, Cheryl, honey. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. So, and Sandy, yeah, you're unmuted now because I wanted to make sure if you have to like give me a hint about anything, that we're good to go. So mindset, right? Like this is, I'm going to go through like how your mind got here. You know, like how our mind, you know, Sandy was talking about at age 7 is the age of reason. It's like when our mindsets get set, right? So it's like it happens very early on. It's not to say that your mind doesn't develop over time, because we know that your brain keeps going and expanding, all the way up till about age 29 around the Saturn return. So in this, in this work around mindset, this is really going to help you just get clear. This is a quickie tutorial on how your mind got set, how you got to where you are right now, like how your thoughts, how your thoughts have created your reality. Right. So up at the top here, we're going to go to experience, right? You see that up towards the top. And we're going to sort of think about this. I know they're in like little blocks here, but like we're going to think about this like sort of as an orbit, right? As a flow, right? So you have an experience at the top. And this is like, we're going to go back to age 7, 6, 7, 8, right around the time that we're so impressionable and we're starting to, internalize deeper emotions. We're starting to take on other people's emotions, right? More complex emotions like shame. Yeah. And so you have an experience. It could be something that happened once. It could be something over a span of time, right? Like, so once, like, oh, I had a dance recital and I blew it. I stood up in front of everyone and I blew it, right? Or it could be over a period of time, like, oh, I moved around a lot as a kid, right? Me and my family moved around a lot. Also, we want to just be gentle with ourselves and know that, like, sometimes we try to get an adult frame of mind when we're going back and looking at a pivotal experience. And like something like, oh, I blew it at my dance recital, for example, your grown-up self is going to be like, that's fine. It's no big deal. That's what happens to kids. But your child self, who's still in the driver's seat when this old feeling gets kicked up, is that was a really big, important experience for them. So let's just be mindful and gentle with ourselves and try not to judge. And we're going to put all this into action in a minute. So you have an experience. Then you're, in the flow here, you go over to perception, your thinking, your thoughts, you're trying to understand, why did that thing happen? Right? And so it's a perception. You're perceiving, your mind is going. 90% of our thoughts are repeats from the day before. And so, and so you keep grinding on one thought, right? And so energy follows thought. Everything in the universe is energy, right? Is a wavelength, right? And so if you keep thinking the same thought over and over again, it becomes a groove, right? So then we go down to belief. So if we have the same thoughts over and over again, right, that we let all those little energy waves then become a long wavelength, it becomes a belief. Okay. So it's like, it starts to root. It's like a little seed that you plant with a thought, and then you think it over and over, which waters it and suns it. And then you got a root growing down, right? And this becomes a belief, and then like a belief system. Okay. And then we go over to thoughts, emotions, and actions, right? So it's like the belief then gives rise to our thoughts, emotions, and actions. And so, when a lot of times when we're trying to make change, we're up at thoughts, we try and like, oh, let me just think I'm a millionaire because I don't have any money. And so I'm going to change my thought to be a millionaire thought. Or actions, right? I'm just going to try and do things differently. Who here has just tried to do things differently? I can't see the chat right now, but I'm having a sense that some of y'all might be, have tried to just change your actions in order to change the way that you feel, in order to change your life, right? You've just tried to go to more yoga or eat a different diet. And then emotions, right? Sometimes we'll try to like push our emotions down or just try to have happy emotions. And that's how I'm going to attract more happy emotions, right? That's not how we make change. We have to go to the belief root. And then those thoughts, emotions, actions lead us right back up to experience. Okay, right? So then we have the same experience over, or a similar experience, because we're basically trying to prove ourselves right about what we have come up with. So say I had a bad, I blew it on the at my dance recital, my perception, oh, I'm just really bad. I'm not a good dancer. I just can't get it right, right? The belief turns into like, I can't get it right. I can't do it right. I'm not good enough, right? I'll never be good enough, no matter how hard I try. Turns into thoughts, actions, and emotions, right? Like I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel bad. I feel unworthy. My actions, right? I sort of just like, I can go inward, or people pay me a compliment and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. Sure, I don't know what you're talking about. Thoughts like, oh, I'm just like, I can never get these things right. And so then we have an experience, we go out and when we recreate that experience, that making sense to folks? Okay. So I'm going to assume so. I'm not seeing anything in the chat here. But I would love to, love to hear from folks. If anyone, Cheryl says raising my hand, me, yes. Okay, great. So let's now that you have a real basic understanding of mindset, let's work with it, right? So the pattern, I want the patterns of our lives, right? Like, because Saturn is foundational, we get to actually access our mindset and shift it, right? Because that's the good news. So even though I said 90% of thoughts are replays from the day before, 10% of those thoughts are that we got room to play, room to grow here with those. So that's what we're going to actually access here right now, today, in these next few minutes. So I want you to think about, maybe you've been thinking, since we started our conversation today, about a pattern somewhere where you're feeling maybe like some stuck energy, right? A pattern that you feel like you just keep looping on, a pattern in your relationships, a pattern in your life that just keeps coming up. Right. So I want you to write that down in your journal, right? Is there a pattern? Yeah. I want you to just, if anyone has a question, feel free to ask, but a pattern that's coming up for you. And I'll just give you a minute. And Sandy, by all means, if any time in here you want to just chime in with any examples, no pressure, but just, I know sometimes you think of really beautiful examples and I'm on the other end here. So feel free.
And you can use me as an example. So you know a lot of my stories. So feel free to just use me as a guinea pig.
Okay, good. I probably will. Good. So you're zooming in, you're zeroing in on a pattern. The pattern is whatever's happening in your life right now, something that's been happening maybe for a while, and you've maybe tried to do your way out of it, and that hasn't really really made a difference for you, right? So you find yourself keep coming back, right? Could be something with your mother, a relationship, your work, maybe you're a workaholic, you can't stop, whatever it is. Okay. So now I want you to just take a deep breath. And I want you to soften, maybe just put your hand on your heart for a moment here. I want you to go in, because a lot of these patterns, I know that they feel complicated and complex, and how do we get out of them? We've given so much thought to them. Maybe we've worked in therapy on them. They just, maybe they hurt or they drain, right? And just put your hand on your heart. You've got you, okay? And I want you to peel a couple layers back on this pattern, and I want you to look at yourself, right? And I want you to look at the story you're telling yourself about you, right? What are you believing about you at the root of this pattern? Now, you're going to have to be pretty radically honest with yourself here. You might want to be like, well, so-and-so does this, and that makes me mad. And that, you might want to find yourself pointing outward. And it's not to say that there's no other dynamics in this pattern, but I want you to focus on you, right? Turn the finger around, hand on the heart. What are you believing about yourself at the core of this pattern? What's the story that you're telling you about yourself? Write it down. And once you've written it down in your journal, you can feel free to share it in the chats if you'd like to. Yeah. Seeing some attracting the same guys over and over who don't want to commit, don't know enough, have to study more. Right? Feeling like I don't believe I'm worthy of lasting love. Yes. These are big, y'all. These are big, but they're movable. Right? It takes time, but it takes you just being right where you are, doing exactly what you're doing right now. Right? We're in a process called awareness right now. So I want you to look at, where does that come from? Right? So you may just you may just for a moment here double hand it on the heart, right? Eyes closed, breathing in and out through the nose. And I want you to go back, right? Go back as early as you can remember. Most of us want to go back somewhere around college or high school or some sort of schooling, right? That's the sort of structures that we've found ourselves in over time. And instead, I want you to go back to childhood as early back as you can remember, right? Perhaps around age 6, 7, 8. And remember the first time that that feeling showed up for you, that thought, you had that thought. It may be a particular moment. It may be a time in your life, right? And if you don't remember something specific, that's okay. Just energetically connect to, in your mind's eye, see that version of you who first started feeling those feelings, right? Of not being good enough, of not being worthy. Right? Of feeling shame. Write it down. Good. And as you're pulling up this memory, this time, or just this maybe energetic connection, even if it feels a bit foggy, that's totally fine. Maybe it feels clear. I want you to see yourself. See if you can picture yourself. If anything comes up, just picture yourself as a child, right around that time that you have a sense you started to have these experiences, these thoughts about yourself, these feelings. Picture that little one. And I want you to just shine some light on them, right? Shine some love and light on them, some forgiveness, right? Because they were just perceiving, they were just having experiences and trying to make sense of them in a world that was growing and getting bigger very quickly, right? They don't have a lot of experience. They have a lot of resilience, right? Our little ones, very resilient and just figuring out a way to survive. So your little one was just figuring out a way to survive. And just shine some love and light on them and shine some forgiveness on them for coming to the thought and the thought pattern and eventually the belief that you weren't good enough or you weren't worthy or you weren't capable or you were all alone or you couldn't make a difference or you couldn't trust or you had to control or no one was going to meet you, whatever it is. And just see them shine that love, light, and forgiveness and shine a little forgiveness on yourself, right? All the ages from that beautiful, sweet child self all the way up to this moment, right? Forgiveness for just going along unconsciously with that belief. And just tell your little one, thank you, and that you're gonna make some more connection with them soon. Good. And I want you to write down now, If there's any little notes from that inner child, brief inner child work there, of course, write down any notes. And I want you to just take one more moment here, and I want you to identify the cost. Right? What's the cost of continuing to hold on to this belief? What is it costing you? I want you to write that down. What is it costing you to stay in this belief? Right? That you have to live out other people's expectations, that somehow what your needs and desires aren't as important as others. Right? Or these, what I'm reading through here of like not feeling enough, of feeling like you're weak, right? That you can't take care of yourself, that you're not good enough for your dreams, right? That you're replaceable unless you're in service to other people in your life, right? That you're not worthy of lasting love, that you're not smart enough. Right? You're all doing such beautiful work right now and all the time. Good. So take these last moments here. I saw someone write sanity, right? It's costing my sanity. These costs are going to be big. They're going to be likely going to be like your ability to cultivate loving relationships with others, with yourself. Yes, sanity, joy, your creativity, courage, your life. This is what it's costing you. You experiencing your life, you being in alignment, right? This is why we work with Saturn. And I don't normally say this in these workshops in this exact way, but like Saturn wants you to be aligned. We want you to be aligned. You know when you're not aligned, when you're having a thought that is not aligned with the truth of who you really are, when it feels bad, when it makes you feel bad, right? So all that shitty contracted feeling that you have when you think of any of these things that you've been thinking about for the past few minutes, right, and been sharing in the chat here, it's because it's not the truth of who you really are. It's not, right? It's what you've been taught to believe. It's the programming you received, right? And that's nobody's fault, right? There's no fault. It's not your fault. It's not our parents' fault. Like it's what is. Right? So like, let's not make it anyone's fault here. Let's just know that like our mindsets, you understand how your mindset works. And so this is how you ended up here. Right? But that contracted feeling, that is your emotion, that your inner guidance letting you know that it is not the truth of who you really are. Okay? So let's get to the truth of who you really are. Now I want you to vision. You're going to take a moment here. And you can always go back in homework time, right? You can come back later and watch this video over the weekend and go deeper. But right now we're going to go into vision.
Before you do that, Dana, turn your video back to you. I turned off the slides so that people can see your pretty face.
Hi. Yeah, it's okay. The slide doesn't need to be up right now. I'll just see my face. Okay, good. So vision. So the vision is like, how would you like things to be? How would you like things to be? How would you like to feel? Let's go there. How would you like to feel? Right? Because this isn't just about what you want to do or have. This is how you want to feel in this lifetime. And you do get to choose. And you're choosing right now. How do you want to feel? What's the experience that you want to have being alive on this planet right now? If you look at the limiting belief that you were having of like not being worthy, not being good enough, everything that we've been talking about here. What's on the other side of that? How would you like to feel? How would you like to move through the world? Who would you love to become? Okay, write it down. Cassie says free. Yeah. Free. Freedom. Keep going with it. Keep peeling back a couple layers on that. Right? Articulate a little bit like what free is for you, right? Get a little more detail, get a little more texture to it. Or if that just feels like the biggest, juiciest word, the biggest thing, then that's cool. Stick with that. But like, how would you like to feel? What do you want this experience of life to be like? I'm going to give you just another minute here. So just tune in, feel it. I know it's in there. At home in my skin, light, grateful that I'm enough just the way that I am. Feeling in harmony, vital, vivacious, creative, important, alive, free. These are beautiful. Thoughtless joy. I want to feel seen. Yes, seen and heard, babies. That's a big one. See others fully in honesty. Create honestly, creative, unafraid. What's on the other side of unafraid? What is that? Courage? What is that? Keep going. That I can confidently show all of who I am without fearing judgment, rejection, or punishment. Yes. So then if you are going to confidently show all of who you are, what would it be with? Right? Keep going. In my earlier writing, I want a place at my table, my place at the table. Good. Feeling my feelings. Yes. Unafraid to feel my feelings. Good, y'all. Keep going with this. And you can come back to this. You can go back to vision. It's not going away right now. Right. But now I want you to get to this. We're going to get to this next little part here. That's sort of the clincher here. And it's called the growing edge. And it's a bit of a complex, sweetly complex concept in practice, but we're going to touch it right now. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to repeat the question a few times, and I want you to just let it sink in. Okay. So given the cost, we know the cost is high, too high, so high, right? Can't keep going this way. And we look at the vision. How compelling is that vision? That vision must be compelling, right? So how compelling and beautiful. We look at it. It's a compelling, beautiful vision, right? So what do you need to shift inside of you in order to get to that vision, right? What do you need to change in how you think about yourself, what you believe about yourself in order to get to that vision? What do you need to shift inside of you, right? This is not about a change for anyone else. This is a shift for you and no one else that would help you get to that vision, right? That would be part of your path here to that vision. What ways do you need to shift in how you see yourself, or what you believe about yourself, or what you think about yourself? Because the cost is so high. What must shift? This is a must. We're in must here. We've got to know I'm enough without having to please everyone else. The courage to feel, courage to release, strong enough to set boundaries, to manage my energy, trust in that I'm enough, that life will meet me where I need it to. Yes. Worthiness, yes. Releasing the past, stop listening to others trying to tell me how I should feel about myself. Yeah, so how in that one, that means that what if you stop listening to others trying to tell you how you should feel about yourself, then who are you starting to listen to? Right? Who are you saying is the most important? Right? Who has the most important input? Hint, I think the answer is you. Stop playing small. Good. So then what would you be playing? How would you be playing? What would you need to believe about yourself in order to stop playing small, in order to play big, or in order to play how you want to play? right? Give myself time, not always giving to everyone. Okay, so then what do you need to believe about your value and your own worth, right? To give yourself the time, to give yourself your own time, right? Listening to myself. Good. So what do you need to believe about the value of your own voice, right? Trust in the goddamn mystery. Trust that I will never abandon myself, that I can take care of me. I'm a competent mother to myself. Beautiful, right? Shifting my relationship to time. I'll get done what needs to be done in my own time and space, not according to others' rules. Good. So whose rules are the most important? Right? Being patient with myself in my process. Good. Beautiful. Accepting that the universe has my back, letting go of the need to obsess over a certain outcome. Good. So then that's trust, right? So then what are you trusting? How are you know, this is about you cultivating a new relationship to trust. Got that? Right? That you can build a foundation for the future. Yes. Yes. So trusting in your ability to build, right? Needing to understand my relationship to Saturn, who is trying to communicate with me. Yes. Yeah. Keep going, y'all. Beautiful. Security. Good. So do you believe, someone said all about security for me. So do you believe that you can be safe doing what you're here to do? Right? Is that your edge? The growing edge, when you touch it, it's going to feel like a live wire, right? Like an engagement with life, right? So I think you all got the moment here, got the point here. Learn how to practice self-confidence, walk with it more often. Good. Self-confidence is a choice. It's a choice, y'all. Relinquishing a sense of control to have trust in the greater part of myself as I am part of the greater part of the universe. Yes. Good, y'all. Perfect. So in this last piece here, we're going to just like flip this. Now in the workshop that we're going to tell you about in just a moment here, we do a lot deeper work on this. So you're just getting a taste here, but let's just take that. Like, I want you to write down a new thought, right? Because remember we did the little mindset cycle there, right? That orbit. And what we're doing is we went back to your initial experience, right? And what we're doing is changing the perception that you had about that experience. Do you see what we're doing? We're actually creating another timeline for you. For all you sci-fi, fantasy nerds out there, I'm right here with you. We're actually creating a new timeline for you right now, right? We're disrupting the old mindset flow. We're creating a new one. So what's the thing you must say to yourself now? And this is, we can call this an affirmation. You can call it a mantra. You can call it whatever you want, right? A turnaround. I want you to let's it doesn't matter what we call it. I want you to sink into like, what's the new thing you must say to yourself? And I'm going to give you some guidelines, right? So it's written down, so write it down. It's stated in the positive, right? So you're not necessarily saying like, I am releasing all of my horrible toxic fears, right? We want to state it in the positive. It's like, then what are you embracing, right? You can even start it with like, a prompt is like, I embrace XYZ, right? Something that's come up in this growing edge, right? And live a life that is, or live a life full of, and speak to your vision. Okay. Right. So I embrace XYZ, speaking to whatever that growing edge is, like whatever it is you need to fucking own right now, right? In order, because the cost is too high to keep going the old way. And then I live a life that is full of, or I create a life. How about create? I love that, right? I create a life full of, or I create a life that is rich with, right? So work with that. You can work with that or come up with your own thought, right? But it's got to be written down, stated in the positive, an I statement. I, not about anything else outside of you. Let's make it specific. Let's make it succinct. Okay. And then let's make it in the present. So it's not like, I will one day feel confident, right? No, we're going to state it as if it's already happening. That's going to feel edgy for you because you're like, that's not true right now. It will be. Okay. Write it down. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. So just like, you don't over edit it. Don't overthink it. Write it down. Okay, last moments here, kiddos. Right, remember, it's written down. It's stated in the positive. It's stated as if it already exists. It's an I statement. And it's okay. You can go back and refine this later. We're just like, you're just getting the bones of it, right? Like get the heart of it, get the marrow right now. Okay. It's specific, it's succinct, and it's magnetic, right? You say it. I want you all, I know we all are in different places in the world and wherever, but I want you to say the thing that you've written down. I want you to say it out loud right now. Okay, we're all going to say it together. But I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to finish up, to refine. Don't worry if you're getting caught in perfectionism. Not today, not here, not now. Just feel it. Okay. So all together, we're going to say, right, we're going to just take a moment and just know that we're all saying it together, right? You're going to take a nice big deep breath and you're going to say your statement out loud, right? And don't worry anything about it. Just say it out loud. So nice big breath in. And now speak it out. Good. I don't know about you, but I was like actually feeling a little woozy right there for a second. Just like, So you can work on this more, right? But I just want to honor you, right, for doing this work right now, for jumping into this work today and diving deep, right? And to really just like honor your own work, and you're going to be able to go back and work on this more over the weekend here. But the way, and of course, if anyone wants to share whatever they wrote down, yeah, a couple of people, yes, just felt this crazy surge of energy. I did too. Actually, like I said, it made me feel a little bit dizzy for a moment. I mean, good, in a good way, just like, woo. You can share whatever you wrote down in the chats, please, by all means, because sometimes it's it's always a powerful thing to be witnessed, right? Especially if those of us who are working on being seen and heard, even if have a little anonymous name in the chat here, it's okay. We see you, we hear you. So feel free to share it, okay? Yeah, right in the solar plexus. So the way that you feel now, right? Like whether you're feeling it or whether you're like, oh, I got to go back and work on this and make it better. Or you're like, woo, like, this is, like this openness, this bit of expansion that we've created here together, right? In this little bit of time. It's 1:11 on my side of the country, y'all. Ooh, and 3:11 over on, well, I guess mountain time. Anyway, but the way you feel now can continue. Right? Like this can continue. And there's a whole structure and framework for this kind of expansion, right? And there's contraction to it because you might be feeling like, oh yeah, and then, oh no. So like expansion, contraction, natural rhythm, right? There's no shame in the game here. But Sandy and I have created a whole structure and framework for this. And we call this work, right? What you've experienced just a bit today, the bigger, deeper dive, we call it the Saturn Return Workshop, right? This is our baby. This is what we do. This is what we love to do together, right? And this is what we love to share with folks. So if this has been resonating with you, any of this, there's an opportunity for support. Remember, Sandy was talking earlier about support, right? About the role of support at this time, right? Either really any age that you're at, but especially if you're in one of these key Saturn transits, right? Like we hear our students and our clients and the people in our world saying really that they need us. I know Sandy, and that they need this work, right? This support work, this structure in order to do this deep, to move these insights into action. Sandy's clients are always like, what do I do? Right? Like, okay, I'm in my Saturn return. So what do I do with all that? Right? And so we made this program. We made this deep dive. We're going to just share quickly with you, and we're going to do a Q&A real quick right after, so you can ask a bunch of stuff. Me and Sandy will stay on. We're going to be here. I highly suggest you stay on, because someone else's question might be your question that you haven't quite formulated, or maybe don't feel courageous enough yet. So stick around. We're going to share quickly about what this support looks like, what this accountability, what this structure looks like, and to let you know that, like, we do have a really sweet, beautiful, special price for folks, you know, that we're you know, it's up for just a couple of days. So Sandy, I'm going to turn a little bit over to you here.
Yeah, do you want to throw my screen up in the whatever magic you did earlier to put my screen up?
Is that it? I think I did it.
I don't know. I hope so. Hopefully y'all can see the slides. So yeah, so this is, you know, as Dana mentioned, Dana and I both went through our Saturn returns together, and we like kind of were helping each other through the challenges that were coming up at our Saturn returns. And we got to the other side, and we both continued on our paths. Myself as an astrologer, Dana became a coach. And then we started to hear all of our clients talking about Saturn return and how hard it was. And we were like, oh my God, we have tools. We can create a process. We can create this framework. And so that's what this is. This is the Saturn return workshop. This is an amazing, you know, way to bring astrology together and coaching together, so that you can get that great insight, continue to create that insight, but also continue to change those deep inner patterns. And so, you know, if this work has resonated with you today, if you are feeling something, and I know I was feeling a lot, as always, this is it. This is an amazing way to shift some of these patterns and have that support and that structure, the guidance. And what we do is, first of all, you get astrology. So I'll cover the astrology part. And that astrology is like a whole 101. So you really get to learn and review. Some of you might be really familiar with astrology. Some of you may not. And so you're all going to get that astrology buffet that you might want to get the facts about your own chart. Part of that is that I'll send you your chart. I'll send you a write-up about your Saturn placement. I'll tell you when your next Saturn transit is, Saturn cycle, all that good stuff. So you'll know. And then you're gonna learn about your own Saturn sign, the house that your Saturn is in, and all of that gives you this brilliant insight. So, you know, so much knowledge about your own lessons, your own life purpose, because that's what Saturn is really here to teach you. And then you go into the coaching side of things. And so, Dana, I don't know if you want to jump in here. And
yeah. And I'm reading, y'all, like real tears. I'm reading those affirmations. Just so beautiful. So beautiful. Like, celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself this weekend, please, 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 for that beautiful work you all just did. So the workshop's really here to support you, right? So on the coaching side, with me, you know, you get this, like, you know, we go way deeper into this mindset work, right? And we also really look at, like, how to work with your emotions more powerfully. Every emotion has information for you. You know, we'll do some energy work. We have daily, weekly homework exercises, including just like regular deep journaling prompts to, like, just get in there. You know, I mean, this is about changing your life, because, you know, Saturn's shining the light. And we want to leverage this energy, right? So everything that we do, that Sandy and I guide you through with the astrology and with the coaching, you know, which we like to call astro coaching here, haha, you know, so cute, but like, it's deep freaking work, right? Like, we can be cute all day about it, and we are, but this work is life-changing, and we know it because we've been through it, right? And we've had our lives changed by this work. So we're not teaching it because we think it's a good idea. We're teaching it because we know how transformative it is.
That's right. And when you sign up, you're going to get a full year of this. So,
oh, yeah. You get us for a year. Hello, 1 full year. Me, Sandy, you.
Yeah. And that means like time like this, but with a smaller group, so you can ask your questions. We meet every 2 weeks. We meet for an hour live. And so I'm your astrologer for a year. Dana's your coach for a year. You can
Sandy
really
pulls up your chart every time you show up. True story.
Yeah, I will. You'll get updates as much as you want on your chart and what's happening. People don't really like take advantage of that as much as they should, but it's available. So,
we're here. We're totally here for you. Yeah. So you get about 20 hours of live coaching with us per year, and that's sort of like on the minimal side. You're going to get all these beautiful, so there's a digital part of this and a live part of this, right? So the digital part is you get access to a beautiful private student portal, and you get, there's audios, there's videos, there's slides, there's meditations, there's a lot of bonuses, there's a lot of cool stuff we've put in there. And so you get to access that at your own flow. You will get weekly emails to midwife you through the process. And then you get the lives with us every 2 weeks. We're right there with you, right? And then we always are adding to the course. So you get whatever else we add, and you can access this from anywhere in the world. You just need a little bit of internet.
That's right. And we have that private Facebook group community.
Oh yeah, private Facebook group community. Totally.
So, such great community, and people really get that support that they need. So many of our past alumni, we have one of my favorite messages is one of our alumni said that she's more proud to be an alumni of the Saturn Return Workshop than any other course she's ever done. Or
she went to medical school, y'all. Medical school.
This is a wonderful testimonial, which I won't read fully, but I'll just say, Sandy and Dana's Saturn Return Workshop has fundamentally changed the way that I relate to myself and others, the way that I relate to my past and my future. I mean, this is profound, deep stuff. Like the core patterns, the real shifts, the real changes are available. And sometimes when we're in those patterns, I know personally that, it can feel like you're spinning and it can feel like, what is the next thing I need to do to get where I need to go? And this is the kind of thing that it teaches you a way that you can use your whole life. Then you don't ever have to spin again, because you have a system, you have a step-by-step system you can apply to anything that comes up in your life.
Yeah. And just as a side note, Cassandra, who gave us this beautiful quote, she went on to imagine up her own ideal job, and then find it, and then get paid more than she ever thought she could. I mean, just as a real world application here.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Yeah. And this does have, this course has tangible and intangible benefits. Totally. And that's the thing. Like the intangible benefits are going to be my self-worth develops, my self-love develops. And then from that place, your actual life develops and becomes more full and more rich, and whatever ways that's what you need. It's amazing. So powerful.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so our last little bit here, Sandy, here we go. So right now what we've got going on through the evening, nighttime, Monday night, right, of April 8th, is this early, sort of this early bird pricing. It's just like a special pricing that we want to give you. You have the weekend to think about it and ask us questions and write to us, but it's a full payment of $497, or we broke it down to 9 monthly payments of $77. Right. So we want to, because you have us for a year, you can spread your payments over 9 months, right? Like I even thinking about it 9 months, right? Like imagine what you can birth, right? Like what you're going to be birthing in 9 months from now, just even thinking about what little bit has come up for you today in our barely 90 minutes together. And then there's an option to add on 2 60-minute sessions with us, right? For an additional $222. That's 60 minutes with Sandy, 60 minutes with me. That's less than the cost of one session with Sandy or I. So it's a pretty good deal. But we want to, we're here to serve. We're here for you. So one full payment of $497, 9 monthly payments of $77. So we really wanted to make it accessible. We'd heard from folks that they wanted a little bit, they wanted to stretch out that payment plan a little longer. And so we listened, right? That's how we do. So we'd love to take cues and we'll give you some A's. We'll take some questions now, and it can be about the course. We're totally down to answer that. you can go to the button right below the video, right? So that's actually where you can, if you're interested in enrolling, you can click that button and sign up and join us. But we can also, we're going to take questions too about any of the astrological insights, you know, that came up for you, or questions that you have. People always have so many astrology questions for Sandy. And if you have any questions about the process, the coaching process that we just walked through, like, let's do it. We're here.
Yes. And so again, it's on the page that you're at. Just hover over to the orange button that says enroll now and join us, because we are here for you. You know, we're opening the doors now, and we can get started right away this weekend, as soon as you enroll.
The second that you sign up, like within a few minutes, you get access to everything. And so C2 Haven says, what's the schedule look like? So we just had a live last Wednesday. So we do the live group sessions every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, every 2 weeks, right? So in almost a little under 2 weeks. I don't have my calendar up in front of me. Will be our next one.
Yeah, and we do those sessions every 2 weeks. At some point, we might change the date and time.
That's 17
right now.
Yeah.
And so that's the live part. The online course part, we help you go through it in about 12 weeks by sending you weekly emails to kind of remind you of where you should be in the process. But the truth is that everyone does it at their own pace. And so you have a year with it. So it's really designed for you if you're busy, if you're in school, like you can do this course on your own time. It's meant to be as flexible as possible. You can download parts, you can do it however you need to do it. And we kind of help you with accountability by just popping in your inbox every week and saying, hey, you should be on module 2 right now. But, that's really optional.
Yeah, and we have a Facebook group, and so there's homework. People share their homework in the Facebook group. We actually might move over to another platform, not Facebook, for our group work, which I think would excite a lot of people, and us too. But so there's a lot of sharing. We ask a lot of prompts and questions, right? So it's active in that there's a lot of encouraged sharing. The lives will then get questions going. People ask big questions, in the Facebook group, and then we'll sort of go back and respond.
Yeah, and Dana, I just want to make sure that people can see your face too. I can't tell from where I'm at.
Oh, I don't know. I'm here. I'm not sure. I think hopefully it's going back and forth.
Yeah, great question here. And I'll cover these astrology questions too. C2 Haven just asked, are the live sessions available for replay? Yes, they are. We send out the replay. They are available, and you can send your questions ahead of time. So a lot of times people can't make the live sessions, but that's totally cool. We still pull up your chart. We still do the full answer, and it's just, you get to check out the replay, and it's great. It really works out well. So let's see. I know there's a couple of awesome astrology questions here. So yeah, so this is, let's see. Would you be able to talk briefly about how Saturn's retrograde at the end of the month will affect those of us in our returns, or any Saturn transit we're experiencing, really? So yeah, so I have a pretty straightforward way of thinking about retrogrades. It's always a chance to go inward. It's always a chance to slow down. It's always a chance to process more of what wasn't obvious at the rest of the time when the planet's racing forward. This is like a check-in. Saturn is actually retrograde about half the year every year. So the Saturn, I mean, I'll probably write an article about it when it happens, but it's not that big of a deal overall because it's half the year every year. So it's usually for most of the summer, which I think is kind of funny, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, because a lot of times in the summer we stop working a little bit, or we work a little bit less. But yeah, so I think you can take it as like, hey, do your summer or maybe you're in the southern hemisphere, so maybe it's your winter. I don't know. But for those months that it's retrograde, it's a great chance to be doing more inner work, looking inward. So what perfect timing for the Saturn return workshop. And we usually do time it to line up with the Saturn retrograde for that reason, because it's just the most perfect time to do that. You just are going to feel it. You're going to feel more and more like you want to go inward. And let's see, I feel like I have a lot of Saturn issues. My Saturn is square the moon. That definitely does mean something. Almost 39. My next thing will be 44. Is this course okay with me? So yeah, you have Saturn square your moon in your natal chart. So this course would probably be really good, because probably when you have Saturn square your moon, you're working with a lot of, it's very emotional. These kinds of feelings of like, how do I hold myself in integrity? Or how do I do what's really right for me? Or am I working hard enough? Is super emotional. And what better way to kind of parse through all those emotions than to have a framework or have a structure? That's what you actually really probably crave, is some kind of way to see what those emotions are really trying to tell you. And that's what we do in this course. And also to answer your question more broadly for everyone, like, a lot of times people come into the course who aren't right in the smack dab middle of one of these major key transits, and it is impactful for them, very impactful, and it serves as integrating the last transit and also preparing for the next one, and they get a lot out of it.
There's a little quick quote here. If you scroll down, if y'all scroll down the page, Melissa, one of our alumni from the first time. So this is our 3rd year running the course here. She says, at first I wasn't sure if the course was right for me, not being in my Saturn return, etc. But in the end, it was just right. It felt like personalized coaching at your own pace with a supportive group and live check-ins to supplement it all, right? So yeah, we get this a lot, and we have folks on all ages coming through into this work.
Yes, awesome. All right, so that was so good. So can you provide insight on Saturn being retrograde when you were born, or if it's retrograde later on your return? I haven't really, I don't know about the last part of that question, but the first part of the question, and it's a great question, but the first part of the question, personally, maybe there's some more karmic stuff that you really need in this lifetime. You're really, really, really trying to do your Saturn work, and it's like a karmic story. This is like you're coming back again to review and reprocess something. It could be, if that resonates with you. Everything with astrology, if you ever hear an astrologer say something, take it with a grain of salt unless it resonates with you, unless you really feel it in your heart. And you're like, oh yeah, that's me. That's what's happening. It can also be with that Saturn retrograde that you're really needing to find role models outside of you who can do that, who you can look at to see how they do that processing, and that can really help you. And so with Saturn stuff, again, this is about holding yourself in alignment, being responsible, working hard, doing what you really said you were going to do, keeping your commitments, all that kind of stuff. And then at a later return, I guess if you were born like in the spring or in the end of the summer, that could happen where it wasn't retrograde in your birth chart, but it was on the return. Again, I try to be really general. If we're talking generally, the most general thing is this is about inner work. This is about reflection, going inward, because you need to kind of pull something up from within and spend, if this is happening to you, spend more time in meditation, spend more time in the quiet. Okay, let's see here. It's really the chat little box. I keep losing my place.
Great. So there's one here that says, from Juliet, that says, not being in my return now, how would you go over where Saturn is for me now? Could we go into things I may have missed when I was in my return? And I'm assuming that maybe means in the course.
How would you go over where Saturn is for me now? Yeah, so I think I don't totally understand. Sorry, Juliet. If you might need to reframe that for me. But yeah, I think that Juliet, were you here when we described the timing and all the different ages? I'm not sure. Basically in the course, what we go through is you're going to do this deep inner work, and you're going to get to see exactly where your Saturn is. You're going to learn what Saturn transits are going on, what Saturn transits are happening. So you can tell what your own Saturn story is going to be, and what it is that you really need to focus on. And then you're going to do this deep inner work so that you can see, like, through your own self-inquiry, what is coming up that is most important, what patterns need to be healed. And if you did miss healing one of those patterns in your Saturn return, it's still going to be active. And so you're still going to need to work on it. And so that's what you're going to do in the course. That was a great question. Sorry, I think my brain is kind of like a little.
No, you're doing so good, Sandy. There's a great question from Beth AB here about like the, sign and house.
Oh, yeah, that's such a good question. That, I think, really plays a role. So for the replay, what Beth asked, to what extent does the sign house that Saturn is in my chart play into these returns, squares, etc.? For example, my Saturn is in Aquarius. Will I experience my return differently than those with Saturn and other signs? So yes, totally. And like, this is something that we also cover in the course. We talk about Saturn in each sign and how the people with Saturn in that sign are going to really feel that. So for example, right now we have Saturn in Capricorn. And so people with Saturn and Capricorn are really working on themes of like, am I good enough? Am I doing enough work? Am I working hard enough? Am I able to make change? Am I able to make tangible change? And so for you having your Saturn in Aquarius, in the course we would cover too what that means and what you would need to especially be focusing on. And let's see. So Saturn, okay, let's see. Any other questions? Dana, do you want to take one here? I'll be quiet for a minute, let you have the mic.
Oh, no, you're doing so great. Oh, right. So, just like everyone who's dashing right now, because I know we're at our 90-minute mark, like, thanks so much for coming, and please reach out with any questions that you have. And we really hope to see you in this workshop. So Hannah says, let's see, Hannah says, read the workshop. If you take the 9 payment option, does that lock you into the 9 payments, or could you pay off the rest in bulk at some point? Also, what time of day do you guys typically hold those bi-monthly calls? Okay, so quickly, the bi-monthly calls, currently we're doing them, we do them on Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We can very easily do a poll when we get a bunch of new clients in, and we tend to do this. We take a poll and sort of see like what's the best time for the masses here. And we do our best to, to roll with that time. So right now it's set for Wednesdays, but that could also change. And if you're in the course, you could have an effect on that. So the other question about are you locked into the 9 payments, or could you pay off the rest in bulk at some point? Now those 9 payments, it'll be automatic, right? So they'll just like once a month on a certain date, it'll get pulled out of your account. If you want to, I'll just say that that's the system, right? And we want to honor the systems of Saturn. However, if you're like, hey, I want to just pay it off like this, you can email us and we'll have a chat with you. We're here, you can always touch Sandy and I. We're right, we're right at the fingertips. We're not behind a wall of a million, different administrators and assistants, et cetera, et cetera. So we're accessible to talk about your program.
So thank you everyone for your beautiful work and your beautiful processing and your attention and your time. And we really honor you, and we deeply, deeply appreciate you. And we hope to get to orbit with you in the future.
Yeah, we sure do. Thank you so much for just being courageous, for showing up, for making time for you, right? Because it's like busy world and everyone's like swimming around, swirling around. So the fact that you made some time and 90 minutes for yourself today, honor that, because it's a big deal. Thank you for hanging with us and being so helpful at the very beginning when we were sort of getting all our text straight. And thank you for showing up. And we're here for you. Any questions, or whether we're just in your orbit now, and you come back to do the work with us in a year from now. Like, let's honor divine timing. This is a beautiful time. Today's a new moon, right? It's a beautiful time to like set some intentions, to go deeper, and to really like honor the call to do some inner work in the world, right? Because it's like the world needs us. The world needs us to be self-aware and to have the tools for transformation so that we know how to love up and trust ourselves and hear and see ourselves, as well as and ultimately hear and see each other, right? To see how we belong to each other. That's why we're here. That's what we're playing for. We're honored to be with you. And thank you so much. And, just click the little button below if you're interested in signing up and joining us in the Saturn Return Workshop. Our special pricing, that 9-month payment plan goes away on the night of April 8th.
All right. We will talk to you soon.
Bye. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Mwah.